Transformers 1 has finally been released in theaters. Now, it's time to review it. Was it worth the hype? Was it better than the live-action Transformers movies? Did the voice actors, specifically Chris Hemsworth and Tyree Henry, do a great job in their roles? Let's talk about it. First things first, I would like to talk about the story. The film does a fantastic job of showing two best friends turn into sworn enemies through their differing views. Orion Pax wants to prove that he and other minor bots, specifically D16, are meant to do something greater. However, D16 will rather stay in protocol to avoid getting into trouble. Eventually, Orion and D16 go on an adventure with Elita 1 and B-127, aka Bumblebee, aka Megatron, to the surface. They find Alpha Trion and discover from him that Sentinel is a huge fraud. He betrayed the Primes, allied himself with the Quintessons, secretly removed transformation cogs from bots, and gave most of their energon to the Quintessons. Once Alpha Trion provides the transformation cogs of the fallen Primes to Orion and his team, they plan to expose Sentinel. Now, this is where things take a dark turn. D16 wants to kill Sentinel rather than simply expose him as revenge for all of the lies Sentinel told. Eventually, Orion and his teams are captured by the High Guard. Starscream, of all people, leads them, and they refuse to help until D16 defeats Starscream. With this, D16 is one step closer to becoming Megatron, and it even shows in his eyes. His eyes start to change from yellow to red. Even though half of the High Guard, besides D16 and B-127, are captured by Sentinel's troops, Orion, Elita 1, and the other half of the High Guard successfully rescued them and exposed Sentinel using recordings from Arachnid. As soon as D16 attempts to kill Sentinel for his actions, Orion jumps in the way and is shot instead. He believes killing Sentinel is unnecessary since he is defeated already. Even though he's initially horrified after shooting his friend, D16 realizes that Orion has been in his way all this time and is always tired of saving him from trouble. Because of this, he lets Orion fall and he kills Sentinel by ripping him apart with his bare hands. And he takes Megatron as Prime's cog, and he eventually renames himself as Megatron, and he declares himself as Cybertron's ruler. On the other hand, Orion is given the Matrix of Leadership and becomes Optimus Prime. Optimus and Megatron duke it out, and Megatron vows to return after Optimus banishes him and the High Guard. That is it. The Autobots and Decepticons are officially born. Optimus calls his followers Autobots, while Megatron transforms the High Guard into Decepticons and vows to take control of Cybertron. If you're still here, thanks for sticking around. I want to talk about the voice performances now. I think Chris Hemsworth did a great job as a younger version of Optimus. Even though I mostly heard only Chris Hemsworth and not Orion Pax, I thought Hemsworth's voice was perfect for voicing a younger and more cockier version of Optimus. Since Hemsworth has a deep voice, it makes sense why he was chosen to voice a younger Optimus, as it sets up the potential for his voice to transform into Peter Cullen's voice over time. As I stated in previous videos, this film was the only other piece of Transformers media I've seen or played where Optimus wasn't voiced by Peter Cullen, aside from Transformers Animated, where David Kaye voiced him. Tyree Henry as Megatron was interesting. Like Chris Hemsworth as Optimus, it made sense because this is a younger version of Megatron. As stated in my reaction video to the trailer of Transformers 1, Tyree Henry is the first African American actor to voice Megatron. Given what he had to work with, I thought he did a great job. Usually, Megatron has a deep, sinister, and monstrous voice. However, since it's a younger version of him, his voice sounds like an ordinary bot's. Throughout the film though, we see how a path of vengeance brings down D16, and Tyree Henry's voice has the potential to transform into Hugo Weaving's and Frank Welker's voice from the live-action movies as time goes on. As for the rest of the voice cast, they voiced their parts perfectly. Keegan-Michael Key did a phenomenal job as Bumblebee, for example. I was dying laughing a lot while watching him on screen. At the same time, I was irritated by how much he was talking. It was to a point where one of my friends I saw the movie with said, "I can see why his voice was taken away. He talks too much." Nevertheless, it was fantastic to see Bumblebee speak for a whole movie, unlike the live-action movies, where he was talking through his radio or only spoke for some of the movie. It's time to answer two questions I raised at the start of this video. Was it worth the hype? And was it better than the live action Transformers movies? The answer I have is yes. This was the Transformers movie a lot of people were waiting for. It was nice to see only the Transformers for once. While I love the live action Transformers films, which got me into Transformers to begin with, I feel this movie was a fresh start to something new. Unlike the Michael Bay movies, there was no toilet humor, no sexualizing women, and there was no spending time on humans. Like, there was no Shia LaBeouf, no Mark Wahlberg, no Haley Steinfeld, and no Anthony Ramos. It was just the Transformers for once, and that's what I really appreciated most about this movie. People of all ages can enjoy this movie, and parents don't have to worry about their children watching inappropriate content in a film targeted primarily at kids. When it comes to negative things about this film, I don't have much to say. The only thing I do have to say is, I wish we saw more of Orion Pax and D16 as Optimus Prime and Megatron at the end of the film. However, the ending does set up a potential sequel in which we will see them as sworn enemies for a whole movie. I did read online, and apparently Transformers 1 was the first movie of a potential trilogy of films, so if they make a second and third movie, I can't wait to see what happens with the story. Like, I can't wait to see more of Chris Hemsworth as Optimus and more of Brian Tyree Henry as Megatron. That's if they're both kept for the two other movies, if a trilogy is made. But nevertheless, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do after Transformers 1, and I trust Josh Cooley because he did a good job, so we'll see what happens from here. That said, I give Transformers 1 a 9.5 out of 10. This movie absolutely must be seen in theaters, especially if you're a die-hard Transformers fan or if you just love animated movies. However, I will say, if you're not crazy about Transformers or animated films, I will say you should skip this movie and wait for it to stream. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out.